How do you accept another person's right of choice, especially if he is a relative?
And let's think, what stops us?
What to wear, who to live with, what to eat, where to get treatment.
How can I allow my son to walk around with that haircut?
Based on these criteria, I'm going to go and start telling everyone how to live their lives?
And what have you achieved in your life? Do you know who you are?
Well, what I have accomplished. Well, take a look, right? Look at my job. Look at what I drive.
Is this a human life? Is this the meaning of human life?
For some reason, God has given us this right of choice and does not interfere.
The choice between life and death, guys, what are you talking about? Well, of course I choose life.
Definitely life.
Yes, but when you understand what is the main choice of a human, what freedom and what choice God has given to a human, everything changes completely.
Добрый день, дорогие друзья! Здравствуй, Диана!
Здравствуйте!
Друзья,
Greetings, dear friends. Hello, Diana.
Greetings.
In the comments
в письмах, которые вы присылаете на
and in
почту.
the letters that you sent to the project mail.
Посвятим этот выпуск одному из
And today, we'll dedicate this episode to one of the questions that one of our viewers asked. This question is about a person's right of choice. It sounds as follows. How do you accept another person's right of choice, especially if he is a relative?
A very good question. What seems to be the hitch? Well, how to accept? Just accept. After all, any grown-up and sane person understands that the other person has the right to have their opinion, their attitude towards something, to their understanding of what is better for him or what he needs, right? But what prevents you from respectfully accepting the other person's choice? Very often in counseling, I hear this comment when people say, you know, I understand everything with my mind. I understand that I have to respect the other person's opinion. I understand that I shouldn't push, insist, demand, or control. But another situation happens, and I can't handle myself. Myself? Who is this self that we cannot handle? Who is this self that does not let us feel fine about another opinion, about another position, about a choice which is different from ours?
Look, well, good question. Who is it? Who's out there, who's not giving, and who's against this freedom of choice?
You see, basically everyone is focused on, you see how the question is phrased, how can I accept the choice? And let's think, what stops us? We return again. We all know perfectly well that every person has the right to choose what to eat, how to dress, what profession to choose, right? Who to be friends with, who to love, who to live with, and so on. But how can I allow my son to walk around with that haircut? How can I allow him to hang around with these idlers? Or how can I feel fine about my son going to this university? My daughter is getting married to this man. What a husband did she find for herself? How can I calmly observe that my children are repeating the same mistake that I made? That but. Where does that but sound? It sounds in our heads. Well, I can't calmly observe what my 5-year-old daughter chooses. How can this mom go with this girl's choice? What will people think? Where did she look? Mom is so fashionable and elegant, and what is her child wearing? And it doesn't matter that this child is jumping for joy in this perhaps strange dress in the opinion of the mother's consciousness. That's where that obstacle lies. And I'm not mocking now. My daughter was once 5 years old, and my son was 5 years old too. But it was simpler with my son. He entered the store and loudly stated, I'll try on one pair of pants and one t-shirt, that's it. And he stopped this long try-on of his mother and marketing strategies of shop assistants, and we quickly left the store. The first thing we put on was great, and we left. When he grew up, he would say, Mom, let's buy that sweater that you've picked up right away. We'll buy it anyway, but I'll just have to listen to how you convince me why it's better than the one I liked. What do we need to deal with? With another person, with his opinion, which does not coincide with ours, or with the dictator in our head, who knows best what everyone needs. Our child, our husband or wife, our parents, our girlfriend, a random person, I don't know, who we saw in line in the pharmacy or in the store. That's what we need to deal with.
Do you know what else I'm interested in at this point? Where in general, right? Where can you meet and get to know and understand this phenomenon of the right of choice? Well, that is primary. When you think about rights and freedoms are written in the Constitution. We have some regulations, who we are as citizens, what we have to do, all sorts of our social responsibilities. But again, let's speak honestly. The format we live in today, it's not that it doesn't provide those rights or guarantee those freedoms, no. It has simply forgotten them. Put them, like in a library on some far shelf, gathering dust there. And it's understandable that few people today believe that they have rights regarding anything. But there's the right of choice, right? There's also freedom of choice. And it's not just trivial things. What to wear, who to live with, what to eat, where to get treatment, where to rest, what to read, what to watch. It's about more than that. It's about deeper things, isn't it? And when some people ask, how do you accept another person's right of choice? I realize that really, something more or less similar can only be found exclusively in religion, which says, guys, God gave a man the right of choice. It's everyone's birthright. Then, really, why do we violate it? Why do we allow ourselves to behave this way?
Probably we need to figure out who suggests this choice to us, this choice that we've just talked about. A choice of clothes, a choice of food, of a profession, a choice of what to think about, where to go, and so on. After all, where do we hear all we have talked about? Where do we hear these suggestions? In our heads, right? Who suggests such a choice? Our mind, our intelligence. But the interesting point is that each person's own experience clearly tells him that our mind does not help us establish honest, trusting, open relationships with one another. It does not help us respectfully accept the other person's choice, right? We have started with it when people say, I understand everything with my mind, but it doesn't work because that very mind, that very intelligence that we rely on, that we take into account when making decisions, tells us, no, talk to him. He has to understand. This mustn't be done. He must understand that his opinion is wrong, that this situation cannot be solved this way, and so on. It suggests this to us. For example, how do we know that the way we see a situation, the way we understand the situation, is really the best for our child? How? Do you know what the most standard answer is? Experience.
Конечно.
Life experience, of course. Well, I'm guided by my experience, how people perceive me, how they treat me, what I've achieved in my life. And what have you achieved in your life? Do you know who you are? Do you know what a human's life is? Why is it given to a human?
Ведь понимаешь, да, для большинства
Because you see, for most people today, human life is like a kind of programmed existence. We talked about it. Birth, kindergarten, school, university, job, or work right after school, married, children, grandchildren, if you're lucky to see them, illness and death. That's it. And all this is accompanied by problems, sufferings, misunderstandings, and endless questions in your head. Do I deserve this? Is this a human life? Is this the meaning of human life? Who programmed us to live like this, to such existence? That's what we need to understand. Who? Intelligence, the mind, and intelligence and the mind that we are proud of, our consciousness. But not many know that consciousness is the beast inside each person. This very beast pushes us toward dominance, superiority, toward this behavior of a know-all. I know better what everyone needs, and and also it pushes us to death. And then, what has a person who lived this whole life without even being aware of who he is achieved? Who has lived his whole life under the dictation of such a beast consciousness, which was showing movies in his head, under whose commands he existed without even realizing why he was doing that, for what purpose and what he would end up with? So, what has such a person achieved?
This question, well, it can be answered, but that's kind of an ordinary way of looking at it. Well, what have I accomplished? Well, take a look, right? Look at my job, look at what I drive, where I live, where my kids go to school. I mean, those will be the primary criteria, your grades. But in order to answer that question truthfully, in order to answer that question really truthfully and honestly, you have to look from a completely different perspective. And these external criteria, they are not helping here because, well, I just understand that what you're saying, that in fact, our whole life, even in a person's desire to understand the truth, to understand simple elementary things. Who is he and why did he come into this world? It still begins, with external searches, with cutting off everything superfluous, with sifting. And then, well, someone succeed, to go further, to go deeper, and somebody else, he stays, at the point of this selection, and he's sorting it out. So, have I achieved something here? Was I able to do something here? Maybe this is my destiny. I don't know, to be a good leader or to be a great friend. Is that all? Does that mean my life is successful? I mean, based on these criteria, I'm going to go and start telling everyone how to live their lives and what to do?
Sasha, I'm asking this for a reason. It used to often appear in my mind, and I heard it from many other people. Okay, you've achieved something. You became a famous architect. You became a successful businessman, politician, I don't know, the most famous chef. What difference does it make if the end is the same, death? After all, a person who lives under the dictation of his consciousness, considering himself those very thoughts that sound in his head, always comes to the same end, to death. And it doesn't matter what he did in his life, what university he graduated from, who he lived with, who he quarreled with, and what opinion he had about something. It wasn't even his. He didn't even realize that it was not his opinion. It was an opinion that the dead program put into his head, forcing him to argue with another person, considering the opinion of another dead program wrong. What difference does it make? That's my point. When we allow ourselves to devalue another person's experience, I have a question. From what height of our own experience do we allow ourselves to do this?
Извините, но
What do
нам,
we know about our own capabilities? Excuse me, but God gave us, each of us, a biological machine that can function perfectly for 1,500 years, yet we bring it to the state of a ruin in 70 or 80 years, and we are proud of it. Well, a person has had a decent life, 80 years, you know? So, from the position of what experience can we allow ourselves to judge something if we have not found the answer to the most important question, who am I and what was the meaning of my life, of human life? What was I supposed to understand? And thus, yes, all those things you've said, where to look for the true answer. Of course, in order to find it, we need to turn to God, because the main and only meaning is both of a human existence and the understanding of what main choice each person has is the choice that God has given to a human. First, the right to choose who to be and how to live, which each person determines for himself. And the most important choice a person has is the choice between life and death. This is the most important choice a person must always keep in mind.
Unfortunately, a lot of people, I would say almost all, with rare exceptions, live their lives without coming into contact with God's love. They live in fairy tales, in fantasies, precisely those illusions in their minds, in hopes for what is empty. Well, they don't have experience. If a person has experienced at least a single moment of close contact with the spiritual world at least once, this is indescribable and unforgettable. It's impossible to refuse that. You see, that's the point. In this case, no choice, they say. Well, how can you choose? It's impossible to choose between
entirety and emptiness, basically, between
yes, between the essence and total nothingness. You know,
the fact that there is nothing.
I'd put it this way. Imagine, my friends, you're in a white hot desert. You've been walking for 3 days. There is no water, there is nothing. And you have a choice. A pail of cold pure water or an empty pail that has no bottom. What will you choose? They will say it's a stupid question, won't they? So this question is just as stupid as what a person will choose. Life in a spiritual world, or suffering as a subpersonality for centuries, right? So what will he choose? Of course he will choose life. But in order for a person to choose, he needs experience, you see? That's where a person needs to make an effort to serve. A person should come to desire that. After all, he is free in his choice. Everyone actually feels that there is God, and they understand this. Even those atheists who say, no, God doesn't exist, prove it to me. It is demons in him who say, prove it to me. It is egoism, you know? He's of the first type. By the way, people, well, we already mentioned, and many people who are familiar with ALLATRA know that there are only 4 types of people, you see. For some people it is easy, while for some it is difficult to have this very spiritual contact. But if a person has experienced it at least once, there's no question of choice before him. However, consciousness is working even when people really come into contact with, let's say, spiritual love. There is no other way to call it. With manifestations from the spiritual world, this very contact, this feeling, then consciousness often becomes outraged, meaning the devil bristles up at this person to such an extent that he distracts him, covers it up, and tells him that it's an illusion, you suggested it to yourself, you know. Indeed, we discussed with you in the previous videos that there is placebo and nocebo. Consciousness is able to make up anything and create chemical reactions. A person might feel something at the physical level. At the physical level, yes, I agree, my friends. But when you as personality feel not only freedom, freedom from consciousness, freedom from the body and from this inevitably dead, illusory world, and you feel the genuine God's love, it's impossible to confuse it or instill it. Satan is incapable of giving that to a human. Only God can give it.
Это знаешь,
That's, you know, the answer, yeah? That's the answer to that question, and understanding that you're immortal. That's what gives you the opportunity to move on just a little bit, to understand that the world is not just about satisfying your body's needs. The world is a much more beautiful place. And even coming to this point, the right of choice, which is given to man by God.
Да, и самое важное
And the
понимание,
most important thing is to understand what is the main choice in each person's life. We simply turn away from it and forget. For some reason, God has given us this right of choice and does not interfere. And He allows us to be an architect, a businessman, I don't know, a good friend and a bad friend. He allows us to build relationships, to destroy relationships. He allows us, I don't know, destroy our lives, turn into a completely immoral, spineless being, and yet He allows us to love Him, and He reciprocates, and in the same way, He allows us to be good, to be responsible, allow us to be human, and does not interfere in our lives. And on the contrary, we appreciate ourselves, That's how we elevate ourselves. I really liked you said, here's this experience in the material, received thanks to the years lived, thanks to the practical or theoretical material. It allows you to elevate yourself above the other person. And we don't look the other way. And we do not take the example of that one parent and creator who really gave us this freedom and who really gave us the most important right to choose whether to live, to live or die. After all, this is so priceless and astonishing.
Sasha, I understand very well why people have this question. Wait, guys, how does this knowledge of this main choice that you just voiced help me respect the other person's opinion? It's very simple, very simply. To do that, you have to figure out what is life and what is death for a person. After all, people are used to thinking that death for a person is the death of his body. That's it. But then, guys, our existence is really meaningless. It doesn't matter what we've been doing if there is one end. But when you understand what the main choice of a human is, what freedom and what choice God has given to a human, everything changes completely. After all, we are talking about real life that never ends. And that real life, in fact, I would even say that the choice between life and death is a choice between two states. Between the state of love and the state of fear. After all, you have to understand what it means to live. Many people say, well, I live. No. To live, life is love. Therefore, to live means to be in a state of love. How long we are in a state of love? True love. That's how long we live. And all the time that we are not in a state of love, we do not live. We exist. We do not even exist. We take our own life from us, following the dictation of consciousness, following the dictation of thoughts in our head. That's the big difference. I'm talking now about true love. That love that goes through the human soul to personality, to human personality, from the spiritual world, from the world of God. I would recently say that it is the energy of love, the purest energy that gives life. But just 2 days ago, a new, wonderful, interesting, and as always, informative video with Igor Mikhailovich Danilov came out where he explains the difference between power and energy. That's why I realized that now it would be more correct to say the power of love, because it is a creative power that comes in a great flow to a human personality from God. That's the love. If we go back to the states, that a human is a choice between states. The choice between life and death means the choice between two states, love and fear. So what is a state of fear, anger, sorrow, or even euphoria? Every person is familiar with this state, so I will not dwell on it. But not everyone understands that the only reason for such a state is thoughts in his head. These are thoughts that provoke the emotions of fear, anger, and sorrow. These are the emotions that take a person's life because they are the emotions that feed consciousness, the dead program. And a person who does not even realize that he is not these thoughts wastes his life living according to the dictation of the beast that takes his life away, chasing bright emotions like the brightness of life. And so, by following this path, by choosing to be in these states of these emotions, a human comes to death. But we can also call love a feeling. We could call it a feeling, and this state is very different from the one that is so familiar to most people. The feeling of love is a feeling of very deep calm, confidence, and joy. Just one moment of contact with this feeling, and everything instantly disappears. Any dissatisfaction, any grievance, any resentment, any disagreement, everything. It's really a power that suddenly fills you. I could describe this state like I would embrace the whole world. It is impossible to be angry with anyone. It's impossible to be dissatisfied with anything. Yes, at that I understand that a person is probably wrong about something. He is making a mistake. But believe me, the most important mistake that each of us makes is when we are not in love. That's it. When he is under the power of this beast. And that's what becomes clear. And that's why it's impossible to be angry with the person. You don't want to put him in his place or prove something to him or convince him in something. No, you just want to wish him only one thing: get free, get out of this power of this beast and learn something else, learn more, find out what life is. So the person who chooses life, who chooses love, he tries to get away from any manifestation of power, of any domination, of any manifestation of dictatorship, of the imposition of something, because any kind of discontent, any desire to influence a person is fear. It's all fear and anger. It's all desire to be significant, to manifest power. And love is a freedom from these states. There is nothing of that kind in love. The spiritual world, the world of love, is a world of equals. There can be no superiority there, and a human in the state of love will not dominate anyone. He will not tell anybody anything. This is what you were talking about, Sasha. God is watching what we're all doing. He lets us do it. Welcome. You want to choose to suffer, to be in fear, to be angry with each other, to waste your life for no reason at all. I gave you the choice, but I'm there for you. I'm there for you. And I'm so delicately near. And He gives us so much support and love all the time. And with this enormous power, many people don't even notice, don't even understand how it manifests itself in us. It is so much delicate. What does understanding a person's main choice give us? It gives us a very different perspective, the perspective of life. So if you still have this question in your head, well, after all, how will this main choice help me deal with the fact that my son doesn't hear me, doesn't hear us? He gave up university, went to the army, or he suddenly decided to get married. He's generally ruining his life right now. No, your son is just going to have his own experience. That's it. But you right now are destroying your life, as well as your son's, when you provoke him to the emotions that you are in. After all, that question you asked is discontent. After all, behind that question, how can he disagree with me? I know for sure that is better. Behind this question, there is a fear of consciousness to lose power over the other person. How is it that he knows what to do without me? Does that mean he does not need me? Does that mean I will be forgotten and I will no longer get attention? That's what's behind this question. So, if we wish happiness for ourselves, if we really wish happiness for our children, then understanding the main choice is the most we can really share with them. Share, but remember that they may accept or not accept it. They may make another choice. It's their right.
Имеют полное право.
Yeah, they have the full right.
Знаешь, благо действительно
And you
есть,
know,
есть у кого поучиться.
there really is someone to learn from. God is always there for us.
Достаточно
And you know,
просто
you just
немного уделить
have to
времени,
take a little time
посмотреть на то, как
and look
простраиваешь
at how you
свои
build
отношения с Богом.
your relationship with God.
Всё будет
And everything
настолько наглядно,
will be so visual,
настолько ясно,
so
что
clear
вопрос о
that
том,
the
как
question
принять право
of
выбора
how to accept another person's right of choice
отпадет сам по себе, потому
will
что ты
fall
увидишь,
away on its own,
увидишь, что великодушие
because you will
и
see
действительно
the
бескрайняя любовь, с
generosity
которой
and the truly boundless love with which God accepts the choice of each of us.
на то, как
If
мы
you
живем
just
с
take
самого
an
детства
honest
по
look
сегодняшний день.
at the way
Знаешь,
we've
я
been
бы
living from our
еще, знаешь,
childhood
так
to
немного
today.
расширил
You know, I would expand a little more on the point that
вот это
this
проявление
manifestation
власти,
of
да,
power,
оно действительно распространяется не только
for
на
it
людей,
really
но и
doesn't
на
just
людей.
extend to our
Ведь,
relatives,
наше
because
сознание в своем стремлении
our
доминировать
consciousness,
старается
in its
выйти
desire to
дальше, чем
dominate,
за семью,
tries to
дальше,
go
чем за какой-то
beyond the
круг
family,
близких
beyond
и тому
some
подобное.
friendly
Думаю,
group,
что
and so forth.
у многих
I think a lot of
в жизни
people
случался тот опыт,
have
когда
had that
на работе,
experience in
будучи
their lives
сотрудником
when at
или
work, as an
руководителем, отдельного
employee or
руководителя
as a
предприятия,
department head,
мы
as
просто
business
не
manager,
позволяем
we
людям
just don't let
работать,
people to
выполнить
do the
поставленные задачи
task
так, как они хотят.
that they
Да,
want to
вот
do,
этот вот так,
the
ну,
way
я не
they
знаю,
want to do.
насколько это там правильный
That kind of,
термин,
I
да,
don't know if that's the right term,
чрезмерный
the kind of
контроль,
over
чрезмерная
control,
опека,
over custody,
что над ребенком, что над
whether
сотрудником,
it's
что на
over
коллегах,
child, whether it's
они
over an
действительно
employee, whether
приносят
it's over
невероятный
a
стресс
colleague,
и страх.
because they really
Да, вот
bring
мне
stress
это
and fear
понравилось,
into
что ты
your
сказал,
life.
что
I
видите,
like
страх утратить
how you
власть.
said
Ну,
that
мы не
because
только
it's
людям
the
не
fear
позволяем,
of losing power,
управляем даже, знаешь, вот в таких
well,
простых
we
моментах
just don't let
постановка
people,
задачи.
even,
То
you
есть
know, in simple moments like
неважно,
that.
да, как
Here's a
когда твой
problem
родственник
set.
почистит
Yeah,
картошку и
solve it
приготовит
yourself. Well, it
суп.
doesn't matter how your relative
По
peels the
таким
potato and
маленьким
makes the
сделать это
soup.
рецептом, как
Well,
делаешь ты или
that
делала
is,
твоя мама, да?
he
Ну
will
и
do
какая
it by the
разница,
same
какой
recipes as
сотрудник
you
должен
do or your
сделать?
mother did.
Первая
So what
связка
difference does it make
с
how
отделом
your
логистики,
employee
которые
completes
сами
the
начнут
task? What's the
общаться
first thing there?
со складом или же
Will he
там
contact the
решить
logistics
какие-то
department, or will
финансовые
he start
вопросы со
communicating
стороны
with the
заказчика?
warehouse
Какая
first,
разница?
or will he
Задумайтесь.
solve some financial issues with the customer side there? What is the
Действительно, вот
difference?
пока ты
The
не
task is
понимаешь,
done, that's
кто в
all.
тебе
Well, I mean, really,
способен
until
любить,
you understand who is
а кто в тебе
in you
способен только
is capable for
на
love and who
стремление
in you is
доминировать и
capable only for
властвовать,
trying
этот
to
вопрос будет,
dominate
ну,
and
очень
rule,
серьезным.
this question will be, well,
Знаешь, вот
very
будет
serious.
останавливать с
You know,
точки
it will
зрения найти
stop
какое-то
in terms of finding
взаимопонимание с
some
другими
kind of
людьми.
understanding
Ты
with
всегда
other
будешь в
people,
позиции
and you'll
служителя.
always
Ну,
be
я
in
же
that position
понял,
from above.
я же
But I
лучше
get
знаю.
it, I know
И точно
better.
так же, да, давай далеко
And
ходить не
just the
будем.
same, let's not go far.
Строение
Building a
созидательного
creative
общества.
society.
Так, все, я решил, что
Okay,
созидательное
that's it.
общество нам
I've decided
прекрасно.
that we need a
Прекрасно.
creative society.
Ну,
Great.
это же
Great, my
здорово.
friend. Well, that's
Теперь,
wonderful.
значит, все мои родственники,
Now
друзья
then, all my
обязаны
relatives,
тоже
my
строить
friends, are
созидательное
obligated to
общество.
build a creative
Они
society
имеют
too.
право, ну,
They have the right
не
not
строить его.
to build it.
Они имеют право не
They have
информировать.
the right
Просто
not to
потому,
inform
что
about
ты
it
так
just
решил.
because you
Другое
choose
дело,
to.
потрать время, пообщайся с ними,
The other thing is to
объясни,
spend the
расскажи,
time,
почему ты строишь созидательное
talk to
общество.
them, explain,
Почему ты
tell them why
понял
you were
важность
building
этого проекта?
creative
Почему
society.
ты понял,
Why
что
did you
тебе
understand the
в этом
importance of this project?
обществе,
Why
в
did you
этом
understand
формате будет
why it would be
прекрасно
fine
не
for
только
you
тебе
in this
и не
society
твоему
and
родственнику, который
in this
сегодня не
format?
хочет этого
Not
слышать.
only for you, but
Не
also for
нарушай
your
его
relative who does not want to build it today. But don't violate his right of choice.
So, perhaps the person who says that I have chosen and keeps insisting on the fact that others would make this choice did not fully understand. Building the creative society is very different from the format in which we live, from the bestial consumerist format, which takes absolutely no account, not just of the opinion of another person, but of any person, every person, and devalues human life altogether. There is no respect for the right of choice. We have really forgotten what respect means. We live in such a format, but the creative society, even its building, even the way it is organized, the very transition to it is radically different. After all, in order to have the creative society, firstly, it can be only in the whole world. It cannot even be in a separate country. It considers every person's opinion. There are 8 billion of us, or a little bits of that kind. So every person has to make this choice. Only then there will be this new format. You see, the very basis of the building the creative society already includes this respect for other people's choice. The creative society cannot arise if only one part of people wants it and another part does not want it. No, it cannot happen. Again, we keep saying that true respect, true acceptance, understanding is always from God. What is the creative society? It is the dream of the prophets. It is what the prophets bequeathed to us. And who are the prophets? They are the messengers of God. They told people long ago how to live in the human way, what the society looks like, in which all people are happy, in which people respect each other. And here is this point of principle, how different it is. But I also understand why such questions arise. You and I are talking, but in order to have an understanding of what kind of choice we are talking about, a person needs to have experience. I will not describe what it means to be in the emotion of fear, anger, grief. Everyone has this experience every day, all the time. Most of the time, people live in the emotion of fear. And how long do they live in the state of love? Do they know the state? You see, when you know the state, you understand that anything may be absent in your life, but love cannot be absent because otherwise I do not live. It means the same thing as taking life from me. And so when a person comes into contact with the state, even for an instant, he understands that it is the most precious thing, it is the most necessary thing, it is something that he cannot do without, simply cannot. He can do without anything, but not without it. And when a person has experience of these different states, then he has a choice. After all, in what state I want to be? What do I want to strive for? Because the first time I heard the choice between life and death, guys, what are you talking about? How can you? Of course, I choose life.
Definitely life.
Yes. Who doesn't want to live? We all want to live, but we don't understand what is to live. And most importantly, we do not understand, not knowing this experience, that this is really what opens the way to eternity. When I listen to how people worry, oh, my son, my daughter got the wrong education, it doesn't matter what education they will get here. In general, the topic of education is a separate topic that I will also like to talk some other time. What modern education gives people. But if a person learns to love, this is the highest education. The way to wisdom opens before him. Love opens the way to wisdom. He will get a chance to learn forever and learn from the wisest. These are not comparable things at all. So, my point is, my friends, now the knowledge about what true love is, how to come to it, how to remain in it, how to gain life, is open to every person. It is so open, probably as never before. So, study, have that experience, and you will understand what choice we're talking about, and you will understand why knowledge and the understanding of this main choice really helps to answer any question. It is the only thing that helps you respectfully accept another person's choice because it gives you that joy of freedom, true inner freedom. Love is freedom from any dictatorship, from any despotism, because it is freedom from the dictatorship of consciousness, from the dictatorship of the beast. That's where real freedom is. And when a person has learned it, has learned this joy, what it means when I choose, what it means I make decisions, really the decision that I want, then it's very easy for him to understand and accept any person's choice. And I would like to ask you the following question. Tell me, please, share, can you accept another person's choice?
И как это
And
происходит?
how does it happen?
Диан, спасибо большое.
Diana, thank you very much.
Большое
Thank you very much for
вопрос.
the question.
Интересный.
It's a very interesting
С
question.
нетерпением будем
We were looking forward to hearing about it because,
ответы. Потому что, как
as you
видите,
see in your comments,
в ваших комментариях,
in your answers, in your questions, there are a lot of interesting things that help us to deal together with simple and sometimes not so simple things.
в простых, а порой не очень простых моментах, которые возникают в
We're
нашей жизни.
dealing within
В том-то и прелесть, когда
in
истина
our
познается
lives.
вместе.
But that's the
Что
beauty
ж,
of
Диана,
learning the truth
спасибо
together.
тебе
Well,
большое.
Diana, thank you very much.
Друзья, спасибо
Friends,
большое.
thank you very much and see you soon.
Remember and tell others that each of us has the freedom of choice. It is us who choose whether to live or to die, and it depends on each of us what we will choose. On each of us. If we make the right choice, if angels of light prevail in this world, and not the slaves of Satan, the world will be eternal. So friends, let's just love each other. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Igor Mikhailovich.
Thank you, friends. Thank you for being here.